On Tuesday morning, Sarah's world shattered. She'd been in what she thought was the perfect relationship for 8 months. Michael was charming, attentive, and made her feel like the center of his universe. But as she sat in her therapist's office, something clicked. The constant walking on eggshells, the confusion about her own memories, the isolation from friends who had started expressing concerns. She wasn't going crazy. She was being controlled. And the person doing it had mastered psychological manipulation so expertly that she'd never even seen it coming. This is how narcissism operates. It doesn't announce itself with a villain's monologue or a warning label. Instead, it infiltrates your psychological world so subtly that you might mistake its control for love, its manipulation for passion, and its dominance for devotion. By the time you realize what's happening, your reality has been rewritten, your confidence eroded, and your sense of self held hostage by someone who views you not as a person, but as a source of what they desperately need. Today, we're diving deep into the hidden machinery of narcissistic control. I'm going to show you exactly how these psychological puppet masters operate, the specific tactics they use to rewire your brain, and why their need for control runs so deep that they'll sacrifice anyone to feed it. We've spent months researching the latest psychological studies, interviewing experts, and analyzing real cases to bring you the most comprehensive breakdown of narcissistic manipulation you'll find anywhere. But first, let me tell you why this matters more than you think. Right now, someone in your life might be using these exact techniques on you. Maybe it's a romantic partner who seems perfect one day and cruel the next. Maybe it's a boss who makes you question your own competence. Or maybe it's a family member who's been pulling these strings for so long that you've never known any different. The psychological damage from narcissistic abuse isn't just emotional pain that fades with time. It rewires your brain, changes how you see yourself, and can leave lasting trauma that affects every relationship you'll ever have. Here's what most people get wrong about narcissism. They think it's just someone who loves themselves too much, someone who's vain or selfish. That's not even close to the truth. Narcissism is a complex psychological disorder that operates like a sophisticated control system designed to extract something called narcissistic supply from everyone around them. Think of it as an emotional vampire that feeds on attention, admiration, and power over others. The scariest part, they're incredibly good at what they do. We're talking about individuals who have unconsciously spent their entire lives perfecting the art of psychological manipulation. They can read people like open books, identify vulnerabilities within minutes of meeting someone, and adapt their approach based on what will be most effective for each specific target. Let me break down how this actually works in your brain. When you encounter a narcissist, they don't just interact with you normally. They're constantly gathering intelligence. Every conversation is a data collection session where they're mapping your insecurities, your dreams, your fears, and your emotional triggers. They're like psychological hackers, but instead of breaking into computer systems, they're breaking into your mind. The manipulation operates on multiple levels simultaneously. On the surface, they might be charming, attentive, and seemingly perfect. But underneath, they're running a complex program designed to make you emotionally dependent on them. They use techniques so subtle that victims often blame themselves for the problems in the relationship. Take love bombing, for instance. This isn't just being romantic or affectionate. It's a calculated strategy where they overwhelm you with attention, gifts, and declarations of love at an unnaturally fast pace. Your brain gets flooded with feel-good chemicals like dopamine and oxytocin, creating an addictive high that makes you crave more of their attention. It's like they're literally hacking your brain's reward system. But here's where it gets truly sinister. Once they've established this emotional dependency, they start intermittently reinforcing it. Sometimes they're the perfect partner who gave you that initial high, and sometimes they're cold, critical, or absent. This creates what psychologists call an intermittent reinforcement schedule, which is the most addictive pattern known to behavioral science. It's the same mechanism that makes gambling so addictive. Your brain becomes wired to chase those moments of validation and love, even when they become increasingly rare. You start walking on eggshells, constantly trying to figure out what you did wrong when they withdraw their affection. You begin changing yourself, compromising your values, and sacrificing your other relationships, all in pursuit of getting back to that initial feeling they gave you. Meanwhile, they're systematically dismantling your support system and your sense of reality through a process called gaslighting. This is where the psychological control becomes truly devastating. Gaslighting isn't just lying or disagreeing with you. It's a systematic assault on your perception of reality itself. They'll deny conversations that happened, claim they never said things you clearly remember, or insist that events unfolded completely differently than your memory suggests. Over time, this creates a profound cognitive dissonance in your brain. Your mind knows what it experienced, but this person you trust and care about is telling you with absolute confidence that you're wrong. The psychological pressure to resolve this conflict is enormous. Most people start questioning their own memory, their own judgment, their own sanity. This isn't weakness. This is your brain trying to make sense of contradictory information from someone who's supposed to be on your side. The narcissist knows exactly what they're doing. They're not confused or misremembering. They're deliberately creating chaos in your mind because confusion makes you easier to control. When you can't trust your own perception of events, you become dependent on their version of reality. You start asking them to interpret situations for you, to tell you what really happened, to validate your own experiences. But there's something even more insidious happening beneath the surface. Narcissists operate with what psychologists call a grandiose false self and a hidden vulnerable core. The grandiose side is what you see initially: confident, charming, seemingly successful. But underneath, there's often a fragile ego that's constantly threatened by anything that challenges their superiority. This creates two distinct types of narcissistic personalities, and understanding the difference can literally save your sanity. The grandiose narcissist is the obvious one: loud, demanding, overtly controlling. They'll tell you directly that you're lucky to have them, that no one else would put up with you, that they're better than everyone around them. But the vulnerable narcissist is far more dangerous because they're harder to identify. They appear sensitive, even wounded. They'll position themselves as the victim in every story, constantly seeking reassurance and validation. They use guilt and pity as their primary weapons instead of overt aggression. You find yourself constantly trying to make them feel better, walking on eggshells to avoid triggering their emotional fragility. Here's what makes this so psychologically damaging. Your brain is wired to form attachments, to seek connection and love. The narcissist exploits this fundamental human need by creating what feels like the deepest connection you've ever experienced, then using that connection against you. They become your drug dealer and your drug simultaneously. The trauma bonding that results from this cycle is incredibly powerful. Your nervous system becomes dysregulated, constantly switching between states of hypervigilance and emotional numbing. You develop complex post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms. Your ability to trust others, including yourself, becomes severely compromised. Many survivors describe feeling like they've lost their identity entirely, like they don't know who they are outside of this toxic dynamic. The control extends far beyond the relationship itself. Narcissists are experts at triangulation, which means they'll deliberately involve third parties to maintain their power over you. They might flirt with others to make you jealous, compare you unfavorably to their exes, or recruit friends and family members to take their side in conflicts. This isn't accidental drama. It's a calculated strategy to keep you competing for their attention and approval. They'll also engage in projection, which means they'll accuse you of the very behaviors they're exhibiting. If they're cheating, they'll become obsessively suspicious of your faithfulness. If they're lying, they'll constantly question your honesty. This serves multiple purposes. It deflects attention from their behavior, makes you defensive instead of confrontational, and plants seeds of doubt about your own character. The psychological machinery doesn't stop there. Narcissists use something called intermittent reinforcement to keep you hooked. Just when you're ready to leave, just when you've had enough of their treatment, they'll suddenly become the perfect partner again. They'll apologize, promise to change, shower you with the love and attention you've been craving. Your brain floods with relief and hope, convincing you that this time will be different. But this kindness isn't genuine change. It's strategic manipulation designed to reset the cycle and keep you trapped in their web of control. So where does this leave Sarah? 6 months after that breakthrough moment in her therapist's office, she's rebuilding her life piece by piece. The fog has lifted, but the journey isn't over. Recovery from narcissistic abuse isn't just about leaving the relationship. It's about rewiring your brain, reclaiming your reality, and learning to trust yourself again. If any of this sounds familiar, if you're sitting there right now with that sick feeling of recognition in your stomach, know that you're not alone and you're not crazy. The confusion you feel is real. The manipulation is real. And most importantly, there is a way out. The first step is always awareness. You can't fight an enemy you can't see, and narcissists depend on their invisibility to maintain control. But now you know their playbook. You understand the love bombing, the gaslighting, the intermittent reinforcement, the projection. These aren't random behaviors. They're calculated strategies, and once you can identify them, they lose much of their power over you. Your psychological world doesn't have to remain under their control. You have the power to reclaim it, to rebuild your sense of reality, and to create the healthy relationships you deserve. The road back to yourself might be long, but every step forward is a victory against the system that tried to erase you. Remember, the strongest steel is forged in the hottest fire. Your survival makes you powerful in ways you haven't even discovered yet.